Machiavelli's true prince power, perception, and enduring political influence. There are thinkers who describe the world as it should be, and then there are thinkers who describe it as it is. In 1513, in political exile outside Florence, Niccolò Machiavelli began writing a short manuscript that would redefine power forever. It was not a moral guide. It was not a religious treatise. It was not a utopian vision. It was a manual for surviving in a world where alliances shifted overnight. Loyalty could be bought, and rulers fell as quickly as they rose. For centuries, Machiavelli's name would become synonymous with manipulation and cruelty. Machiavellian would come to mean deceitful, calculating, ruthless. But what if that was never his true message? What if Machiavelli was not teaching tyranny, but exposing reality? To understand Machiavelli, we must enter his world. Renaissance Italy was not a unified nation. It was a volatile landscape of competing city-states: Florence, Venice, Milan, Naples, and the Papal States. Foreign powers such as France and Spain frequently invaded. Political power was unstable, temporary, fragile. Governments collapsed suddenly. Leaders were exiled. Mercenary armies changed sides for better pay. Loyalty was transactional. Machiavelli served as a diplomat for Florence for over a decade. He negotiated with kings. He observed generals. He studied rulers at close range. He watched ambitious men rise to power and lose it just as quickly. He did not study power from philosophy alone. He observed it in motion. When the powerful Medici family returned to control Florence, Machiavelli was removed from office. He was arrested, imprisoned, and tortured under suspicion of conspiracy. Though eventually released, he was politically sidelined and sent into exile. Stripped of influence and position, he retreated to the countryside. There, frustrated and ambitious, he began writing what would become The Prince. The book was likely intended as both analysis and opportunity, a way to demonstrate his usefulness to the very rulers who had cast him aside. But what emerged was something far more enduring. Before Machiavelli, political thought was dominated by moral philosophy. Plato envisioned philosopher kings guided by wisdom. Christian political theology emphasized virtue and divine justice. Rulers were judged by how closely they embodied moral goodness. Machiavelli broke with that tradition. He asked a different question. Not, what should a ruler be? But, what must a ruler do to survive? His answer shocked readers then, and still unsettles them today. A ruler, he argued, must learn how not to be good. This did not mean celebrating cruelty. It meant understanding necessity. If circumstances require harshness to maintain stability, then harshness may be justified. If mercy leads to disorder and collapse, then mercy becomes dangerous. For Machiavelli, the first responsibility of a ruler was not moral purity. It was preserving the state. Because without the state, there is chaos. And chaos destroys everything. One of Machiavelli's most famous questions captures his realism. Is it better to be loved or feared? His answer is careful, not reckless. Ideally, a ruler should be both loved and feared. But if forced to choose, it is safer to be feared. Why? Because love is based on obligation and gratitude, emotions that can fade. Fear, when properly managed, is more reliable. It depends on consequences, not affection. But Machiavelli added an important warning. A ruler must avoid being hated. Hatred breeds rebellion. Fear maintains order only when it is disciplined and predictable. This distinction is often overlooked. Machiavelli was not advocating cruelty for its own sake. He was mapping emotional power dynamics. He understood something profound about human psychology. People judge more by appearances than by direct experience. Most people see what they are shown. Few understand the deeper truth of political decisions. Therefore, he argued, a ruler does not need to be virtuous in every action, but must appear virtuous. A prince should appear merciful, faithful, humane, religious, upright, even if circumstances require otherwise. Politics, in this view, becomes a matter of perception. Centuries before modern media strategy, Machiavelli recognized that image shapes legitimacy. Authority depends not only on force, but on narrative. Beyond fear and appearance, Machiavelli introduced two concepts that remain central to his philosophy: virtù and fortuna. Fortuna represents chance, the unpredictable forces that shape events. War, disease, economic collapse, betrayal. These are beyond any ruler's control. Virtù represents the qualities needed to respond to fortune: boldness, adaptability, decisiveness, strength of will. Fortune may create opportunity or disaster. Virtù determines whether a ruler survives it. Machiavelli compared fortune to a river. When calm, it sustains life. When flooding, it destroys everything in its path. Wise rulers build barriers before the flood comes. Power, in this sense, belongs not to the strongest, but to the most adaptable. Rigidity invites downfall. Flexibility sustains rule. For centuries, Machiavelli was condemned as immoral. Religious authorities criticized him. Philosophers rejected him. His name became shorthand for manipulation. But this reaction often misses context. Machiavelli lived in a world of instability. He saw republics fall because leaders hesitated. He saw mercenary armies betray for gold. He saw political naivety invite foreign domination. He was not writing in a vacuum. He was writing from experience. In many ways, he was less cynical than his critics. He did not invent political ruthlessness. He observed it. Perhaps what unsettled readers most was not his endorsement of harsh tactics, but his refusal to pretend that politics was guided by moral purity. He removed illusion. He described power without decoration. 5 centuries later, his insights remain relevant. Modern political campaigns rely on perception. Leaders craft public images carefully. Strategic messaging, controlled appearances, emotional framing. These reflect Machiavelli's understanding of how people judge authority. His ideas have influenced rulers across ideological spectrums. Why? Because he addressed something timeless. Human nature changes slowly. Ambition persists. Fear persists. The desire for security persists. Machiavelli did not argue that rulers should be evil. He argued that they must understand reality. The true prince is not necessarily ruthless. He is aware that loyalty can shift, aware that fortune can change suddenly, aware that perception shapes power. The true prince understands that morality without stability cannot endure, and that stability without wisdom collapses. Machiavelli did not create political realism. He revealed it. And 500 years later, leaders still operate in the world he described. Rapid history, the past told fast.